which is, oh, it's running. A YouTube friend of mine, Keith, runs the Yawning Angel channel, an excellent new channel that you should go and check out if you're into your Amiga and other retro computers. Keith asked me for some advice on which 48K Spectrum to buy. Well, that's quite a personal thing. From what I've seen, there's quite a split opinion between the rubber key and the Plus variant, generally coming down to which one you owned back in the day. I, for instance, was there right at the start in 1982, and my first Spectrum was a 16K rubber key. Boy, do I wish I still owned that one now. In the end, Keith chose the Plus, which is, of course, the wrong one. Doubly so as it disproves my theory of wanting whichever one you owned back in the day. As Keith explained, his first Specky was also a rubber key, but he went on to clarify back then he lusted after the Plus, as that was the one he couldn't have, which makes a lot of sense. And I had to think back to when I bought my one and only Plus, and I had similar thoughts. Not about the lust back in the day, but more it was the one that was missing from my collection at the time. So I suppose the right one to buy is the one you want to buy. Anyway, I spotted this Plus on eBay last week for a very reasonable £35 buy it now, plus a little bit of delivery, and fired off an email to Keith saying this would be a decent starting point. It was missing the delete key, but otherwise looked intact. A replacement key wouldn't be hard to source. There are usually plenty to buy online from scrap machines. Keith obviously said yes. I ordered the machine and we crossed our fingers and waited. And today it arrived, excellently packed and delivered intact. The case is pretty decent with a few dings here and there. The legs are present and working well, and they even have their rubber feet still on the ends. And if I peek into the expansion slot, I can see that Keith got lucky with this one. Let's open the case and take a look inside. This is an issue 6A, which is the last revision 48K motherboard that Sinclair made. A great choice for anyone looking to buy a Spectrum. The 6A is the one that has the least bugs and things to fix. No nasty DC-DC mods or transistors sitting on CPUs in this one. The biggest difference is the ZX8401, or in this case the other version of the same chip, the PCF1306P IC, which replaces the 674LS logic chips on all the earlier versions. This didn't work quite as well as Sinclair hoped and required the inclusion of just one more 74LS04 over here to fix the timing issues. Okay, I've tested for resistance on all the voltage rails and checked the transistors at TR4 and TR5, and all those tests seem fine. So I'll now do a quick composite mod and I can switch it on and see if Keith bought a pup or a pearl. Pup or pearl. Make a note of that. Could be a series in the making. Pup or pearl. Pup or pearl. Let's get soldering. All the pluses have this manky brown stuff on them. A bit on the heatsink and a bit on the modulator, where the keyboard rests on these bits here. I think it's to stop it rattling. It's disgusting. Frankly disgusting. Right, get that out. And get this off. Right, I've got 100 microfarad, 10 volt, nice short little capacitor here, and I've got a couple of BC549s to go in there. Lead-based jollop. First thing to do is to remove these two wires, which are the power supply for the modulator and the video feed to the modulator. I really need to remove all the solder, but I like to. Okay, and once they're out, can fold up these two wires up over the side of the modulator, out of the way, and they won't be needed again. So the last bit to do is I've got to remove this resistor off of the inside of this RCA jack. So, transistor. So the positive goes down through the board, the negative goes into the can. So I like to bend these leads like this, one around the can like this, so that it's not actually touching the can of the capacitor. And then the other one goes straight into the modulator. Once that's halfway in there, just grab it with my tweezers, try to, and bend it up. And there we go. So it's not shorting out on anything. Perfect. I sold that bottom one first. And now not sure if that's connected. Can test it. Yep, it's good. Just make sure the lead goes in properly. Perfect. Good solid connection. All right, I'll do the transistors after. First of all, let's actually see if it's gonna fire up. Are you ready? What did we say? Pup or a pearl? Here we go. It's a pup. Damn. It's a pup. Damn. I really thought this was going to be all right. Oh well. So the next thing to do is to grab my phone and a thermal camera. Ready? So the ULA is heating up nicely. And the lower RAM is heating up evenly. That's the CPU. 20 odd degrees, not too bad. I suppose we better check some voltages. Just making sure that the ULA is not going to just pop immediately. Everything actually looks all right. Voltage regulator's not too hot. Everything seems to be reasonably. The ULA is quite warm, but they always are. Not a surprise. Let's check some voltages. Right, so coming in, we've got 9 volts. Should be 8.81. That's a bit low. It's only drawing 560 milliamps. 560 milliamps. So which is it's running. Could just be capacitors. It's running. What on earth happened there? And it looks so dim and dark because I haven't changed those transistors. So this just needs a recap. It's a pearl. It's not a pup. Congratulations, Keith. I'll recap this. In fact, what I'm going to do. No, I'm going to recap the whole thing because I don't know when. It's got some slightly different colour. These two caps here are like the old ones, the Galec ones. These other ones, or all of the other ones, are like a shiny blue, and I can't see a brand on them. And they look more modern. It's possible it's been recapped, but that could have been recapped 25 years ago, and it's still going to be bad. Well, you know, it still could be bad. Some people say that you shouldn't recap all of it, but it's not. You know, it's only like a few pounds to do all of them, and I'm not going to damage the board. I've done enough of them to know how to do it now. I'll cut them out. I won't risk trying to desolder them whole and testing them. And just when you cut them and pull the pins out, it doesn't do any damage at all. A new set of capacitors, and we should be good to go. And I will send it back to you in its case with a new key that's on its way. Oh, I should test the keyboard. We should test the keyboard, because one of the biggest expenses apart from the ULA is a keyboard membrane. Okay. Oh no. Got nothing. Oh, I have got something. Rem worked. Which, what? That means there's a key stuck somewhere. D works. E works. So this must be one row. 3 will work. Yeah, we're missing loads of keys. I think this is. What I'll try and do is trim the end of the ribbon cables and then see if that works. If not, it's going to need a new membrane. I can't see any cracks in it. I had high hopes for this because it's quite a late one, but there is some delamination going on in there, and there is some corrosion. Well, it might just be heat related. See, that's different there to here, and then different again here, and over on this one on the other side there's this weird mark here. So it could be that the only rows working or columns working were to do with these middle ones, and the outside ones are gone. I think it needs a new one, but yeah, I'll come back to this in a bit. Right, before I recap it, I've grabbed this keyboard off of a 48K Spectrum, and it's a brand new membrane in this one. You can just see here they're very good, and to make sure that the keyboard works okay, which it does, all of the keys work on all of the rows and columns. Tested that thoroughly, so that's good. I'll quickly just take that out to one side. Now I wanted to run the diagnostics as well, so I tried plugging in my dandinator, and with that plugged in, this is the output I get. It fails again, and it fails in exactly the same way as the first switch on, which again really points to some capacitors not being up to spec. So let's get that changed. Okay, the recap is finished. I've also cleaned up the power socket and the ear and mic ports. Plugged my dandinator back in, and yeah. Now, I've been seeing this a bit recently on other Spectrums using this device, and I think it might either be me being an idiot or something might be a bit broken in this dandinator. So I can't test this computer with that, and the only other Spectrum diagnostics I have is this ROM board from Retroleum, and unfortunately the ROM in this Spectrum is soldered in place. I could desolder it, but let's not be hasty. There are other ways of doing this without melting bits of metal. The first thing I can do is load a game the old-fashioned way. Well, mostly old-fashioned, using the ear port. I have a TZX Duino device somewhere, but I find that a bit clunky and it doesn't work well on certain machines for some reason. Could just be my one. I prefer to use an Android phone and the excellent PlayZX app. I use a stereo TRS cable, and these are the settings that I find work well for me. My test game of choice is usually Manic Miner, but today I will take a look at something a bit different. A game released in 2010 by the Bog Brothers, which might be my favourite publisher name ever, called Ghost Castle 2. One of the creators, Codename 5, asked if I would use it as a test game in an episode, so here it is. I'm actually rubbish at these Explore 'em ups, so don't expect an in-depth review here. Okay, that seems to work. But without playing through the whole game, I can't know for sure this is a fully working machine. Luckily, I found a diagnostic program by Ian Logan I can load using the PlayZX app. In here I can select a RAM test with option 7. Which passes, and a ULA test with option 6, I believe. Make some pretty patterns. Which also passes. I think those two tests combined with a solid play session will constitute enough of a test for me to consider this a fully working machine. And to be honest, I'm not surprised. This late revision motherboard and the late ULA is a good combination and should prove very reliable for Keith for years to come. So what does that leave? The missing key first. I hunted high and low on the internet for one of these and everywhere is temporarily out of stock. So I'll scavenge the delete key from my own Spectrum Plus, and when I notice one comes into stock, I'll pick it up at a later date. And the final thing is the keyboard membrane, which I ordered from ZX Renew and should be here any day. Shall I try some of that magic editing thing? Ta-da! That's totally seamless. Also, this isn't actually the new one. I've already put it in here. But it looks a lot like this one, just shinier. Okay, so this was the final part to put into this Spectrum, and after I give it a good clean wax, I'll be sending it back to Keith. I hope I've shown a nice bargain can still be had, even from eBay, for anyone looking to add to their collection. And yes, I do understand how buying these outside the UK can be difficult and expensive. A bit like trying to buy an Apple II over here. The total spend on this machine was £39.20 for the machine, £5 for the capacitors and £20 for the keyboard membrane. So all in all, for a working and reliable machine, just shy of 65 British pounds. You can do your own currency conversion. Keith will just need to source a suitable power supply and video cable, and then he'll all be set to get cracking. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Bye. The case is pretty clean with, right, so, no. A YouTube friend of mine, Keith,